the head of Asia Pacific for GSMA, and Ms. Barbara Pareglio, the Executive Director for Connectivity for Aviation and IoT Technical Director for GSMA, to offer an overview of GSMA and its efforts in the drone ecosystem.
Thanks, Christian, and welcome to the Connected Drone Workshop by GSMA. And it's great, my honour to, on behalf of GSMA, welcome to this workshop. It's a big step forward for GSMA as an organisation. It's the first of its type in Asia Pacific, and judging by the people who attended, I don't think it's going to be our last, and we look forward to participating in this community as we go forward. I would like to thank our partners, Iskandar Investments, in this workshop and that great introduction, and we look forward to continue to work together to support Malaysia and also Southeast Asia become a real global leader in drone technology. But more importantly, accelerating the integration of drones into our digital society and realising their true potential for Industry 4.0 through whole of government and society collaboration. So as Christian said, my name is Julian Gormon. I'm the head of Asia Pacific for GSMA. As many of you in the audience, I know this is the first time you've met the GSMA. The GSMA is the Global Trade Association for the mobile industry, representing over 750 mobile operators around the world and more than 400 businesses from the broader ecosystem. And we'll come together to advance the use of mobile technology to advance inclusive digital economic transformation and the digital societies that we live in today. And I think we all agree the sustainability and resilience of our digital societies have been a critical factor in our ability to respond to COVID. But we must continue to focus and be even better prepared for a better future. And it's pretty easy to think how drones could make a significant contribution to a situation like this in the future. So as we sit here today, we can easily acknowledge that the pace of innovation and technical acceleration is faster than ever. Of course, since the first industrial revolution, parents have said this to their children, but as globally we now accept we're in the midst of fourth industrial revolution, the speed of innovation and change can be alarming to your parents, your community, and the governments and society we live in. And to be honest, drone technology is probably one of the easiest technology innovations in recent years for people to recognise, and has raised different responses to the technology innovation that it may bring. So a number of years ago, the GSMA recognised that drone technology, community concerns, legacy government policy and regulations, and mobile networks, and the widespread availability of drones were on a collision course, and the mobile industry has a real and significant role to play. So the opportunity it positively impacts people's lives and the industry seems limitless. You know, drones are shown to be used for search and rescue, remote monitoring, inspection of facilities, logistics and safety are just a few of the things. But achieving these potential actually cuts across so many parts of our traditional regulatory frameworks and government ministries, and our lives and also the dynamics of our society and culture. Our challenge is to be able to leverage drone technology potential, respecting the concerns of our society through efficient whole of government society engagement. And I mean, that's what this workshop is part of. Your participation today confirms we are not alone in that thought, with representatives from more than 30 countries and diverse interests from aviation, privacy, transport, and of course, telecoms. Ultimately, Bill Gates made a useful contribution to the debate some time ago by recognising there is a lot of resistance and concerns about drone technology, but that on the balance of it, the benefits are likely to far outweigh the concerns. Of course, we're not here to dismiss concerns, but make a positive contribution to the debate about drone technology adoption and how we can work together for a prosperous and sustainable contribution to our society and economies, and resolve those concerns amicably. So I'd like to thank you for your participation and attendance today. Success will rely heavily on respect of different opinions and priorities and working together. So I encourage you to all participate in the workshop today. Jointly, we can advance drone innovation and leadership in Southeast Asia, and I look forward to participating in this in the future. So thank you, and I'd like to hand it over to Barbara.
Thank you, Julian, and welcome everyone. So I want to take you through a little bit of journey of what GSMA has been doing and why we are doing it. So just to start, my name is Barbara Pareglio, and I'm leading the Connectivity for Aviation, which is the area where we look at different aspects, how to use the connectivity for drones particularly, where it's been the focus for the past 6 years. So I want to show you a little bit what we have done and why we did it, and also take you through some partnership cooperation with other organizations. So first of all, why we are here, why we call it the Power Partnership. As we mentioned before, we are coming from the telecom industry, and we do need to understand the aviation industry and the drone industry in the ecosystem and their needs in order to provide the right informations and how to use the best connectivity and other services that our mobile operator could provide. So that's why we also started 5 years ago, so it's been already a while. And most importantly, we cannot do it alone. So as you might understand, we might be the experts in telco, but not the experts in the other area, and vice versa. So we do need to have this conversation and try to speak the same language at some level, because only then we can actually provide you the best support. And then what we want to do is obviously try to evolve our technologies and mobile networks to cater for your needs. So this is a constant evolution. Every year we are adding features and doing things to our technologies. So we want to keep pace and provide the best support for all the different industries. So that's why we call it the Power Partnership, and that's why we are here. And thanks to our co-hosts and Iskandar to help us to do this, particularly in the region. So that's why we want to create this cooperation and work together. So as a connectivity, as a vision, as I said before, we want to have this partnership, this strong cooperation and understanding each other. And we want to also look at what we can offer from our side. So at the beginning, we already saw, as I said, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, where there were drone companies and drone operators where they were using the connectivity, but we didn't know what that meant, if it was possible, what was the impact. So step by step, we started looking at what we wanted to achieve, what they wanted to do with the connectivity, what was requested. And so we started from there cautiously, actually, at the beginning, because at the beginning we were concerned that connectivity used by drones could cause interference with our primary users on the ground. But now we are at the stage that actually we can support, because we understand what it means. So we are in a better position that now is the time to actually look at the connectivity further, 4G and 5G, particularly for supporting the ecosystem of aviation and drones. And obviously, most important is also to have a chat with all the different regulatory bodies and understand the regulation, where is this vision, where they're going, so that we can also understand how to progress on our evolutions for the networks. What we do in GSMA, so this is the primary group, that we call it Drone Interest Group. And this is a place where we can have a conversation amongst our members. You can see here that at the moment there's a bit more, but let's say there are about 60 or 60 plus members at this stage. And we have a distribution of mobile operator or telecommunication provider across the globe. So it's very well distributed in different regions. And here we can have a conversation, talk about experience, share knowledge, and also have a vision where we want to go and what we can do together to support the different use cases and the growth, for particularly for where we look at, we focus is, I would say, the commercial drones, not the consumer, not the military, but the commercial drones. And in particularly where we see that BVLOS needs support, that's where we see the best fit, at least for our members. This group is led by our chair, which is Anwar Sadi from Rogers, Canada. So all the mobile operator or ecosystem player in the telco are welcome to join. If you are a member of GSMA, this is free to join. Anybody can join the group. What we have done, as I mentioned before, we focused on understanding opportunity, not just for the mobile operator and the ecosystem itself, but opportunity also to support and have this, let's say, growth of the commercial drones. So we look at the different benefit analysis or use cases where at least we see that the connectivity plays a role. So if you look at these documents, which are fully available online, so you can access it. These documents are looking at the perspective where we see that there is support or needs for the connectivity to help the specific use case. So this is one document that is very broad, generic, but at least to give an overview where we see that the mobile operator and the industry itself can do something and help you in your use case. Then if you look at the far end, we focus on remote identification. The reason why we focus on remote identification, because in a different region, like in Europe, but also in the United States and other countries are also looking at as a first regulations, particularly also as a, let's say, not just BVLOS, but every drones, to have a sort of form of digital identification. But this is also, let's say, the base, the cornerstone features that you needed if you want to do a traffic management. So that's why we look at this area, particularly because when we look at a beyond visual line of sight, this is the first step also to have a proper UTM system, so unmanned traffic management. In the middle, we started to create a glossary of terms from both sides, from the aviation and the telco. And I would say the reason is, but specifically, as we said before, because we need to understand each other, and we constantly have some sort of misunderstanding, because a lot of terms are the same term, but with different meaning. So we started to look at how we can support our members and the other ecosystems and stakeholders to have a common ground. So that's why we started to create this glossary, which is always in progress. We're always going to review it and add terms. Please feel free, actually, if you see something is wrong or something that is missing, we can always add. So this is a living document online where we try always to add things. Just to give you an example, when we had the conversation since the beginning, we call our members the mobile operators. But the same you do it in the drone ecosystem, your operators, you call it operators. So when we talk operators, there will be a confusion, which operator are we talking about? So we always had to clearly, state who's who and what is the role. Simple things like this, and then we also have a lot of other terms, but they are used with slightly different meaning. So that's why we decided to create this glossary. There are other documents which I'm not going through, but they're all available on our website, so we can you can access it. At the end of the presentation, I might just post the link of our website so you can see where you can find them. So in addition to these documents, we also worked with our members to gather some use cases in very different area to understand and show you that there are things already happening. Some of them do trials, as I said, not already commercial, but that is showcase what you could do with connectivity. Looking at, as you can see here, we have several examples of different operators across the different areas. So I'm not going to go through all of this one, but just to give you an idea, the ranges from looking at purely the connectivity and how we support the drone operators and the UTM provider to understand where is the connectivity, to no-fly zones, how we can support to actually quickly create, but also send no-fly dynamic no-fly zones, from disaster response, recovery, monitoring of fires, wildfires, and generally speaking also to have the whole ecosystem of traffic management in this area. There are more examples, they are all on our website, so they're very short, but at least give you an idea. And if you want to have more information, you can always contact us. More importantly, I want to talk about what we call the area connectivity joint activity. This is a very important area where you will always also discover more information. We will talk through with the panel itself, the first panel. There are two of our members present on the panel. And this group is being created, is in cooperation with the group, Global UTM Association, which is an association that looks at the members, particularly for creating a harmonized global framework for UTM. So this group is, let's say, our interface to work together to understand where the connectivity aspects plays a role in their services and how we can support them. So here we are really working together to effectively solve some of the issues that they have where they want to use the connectivity. So this started at the beginning of 2020. Unfortunately, it was through the pandemic, but they're very active. The group is very focused, and we are started to look at a different area. We have a global, let's say, reach, and we are working through a decision board, which is called the ACJA decision board. And you can see here it's split in half and half. Half of the members are coming from the aviation background or drone background, and half from the taco background. Some are actually in between, but they are in both areas. So as we said here, we also have Chris Kusura, which is also going to be on the panel. So we will also talk about generally what they do, but also the importance of what we do here in the ACJA. More importantly, I wanted to give you an indication of where we are working on. So we created 4 what we call it work tasks, where we look at the 4 different aspects of the connectivity, and we try to focus on specific topic, because obviously we have a huge amount of areas where we could work with. We picked this one as the primary one at this stage, so it will change, or it could change or expand. But at the moment, we decided to work in this 4 area. So just to give you a brief overview, the first work task is looking primarily at the coordination with standards, ESL standards, but also other standards, also aviation standards, where they do look at the connectivity. And in the primary goal here was also to provide some educations or some descriptions of how you can take the information from we call it 3GPP, which is a body that does the specifications for our standard, is the only one that does these specifications. So we are quite, let's say, well organized in our industry, because we have this global specification that then is utilized across the globe, which is allowed to have interoperability. But it is very complex to read, where to find information, and also how we organize. So that's why we have this group, which is dedicated to feed the aviation industry with the input that is needed, that is only relevant for the services that we're looking at, but also acts as a 2-way streets, I would say. But not only we provide information to the aviation industry, but the other way around, we try to gather all the information that it needs from the industry and feed 3GPP what will potentially be the requirements going forward, and how to evolve, as I said before, our specification in order to support the needs of the drones and the aviation. So this is one area. The second area, we call it supplementary data services, or it will change or keep changing the name, but primarily is the interface that we have between the telecommunication industry and the aviation or the drones, particularly to the drone operator and the UTM provider. Here is we need to understand how we provide information which is relevant to them, and what would be these informations and how we provide it. And in here we also looked at, for example, the primary information which everyone wants to know is if I need to fly from A to B, how good is my connectivity? Do I have connectivity throughout flights? Yes and no. Is good enough for my type of operations? So these are the type of things that we looked at and how we can provide best support. And now in this one, we already have published a white paper where we provide let's say, a definition of this service and what we can provide on this service. And we are evolving now where we look at different aspects to constantly evolve this interface, so to say, to provide the information. And that is based on real life examples. So do we have also, there are different trials with different mobile operator and partners where we collect these informations in order to make the best of what we have now, but we will constantly evolve it to make sure that this is the right path. The third one, I would say, is maybe more understandable if you're coming from the mobile industry, because that's the way we define, for example, or we select all the features that we have from our standards and that you need for drones. To give you an example, also when you use your mobile phone, that is also using a profile or different profiles. And that tells you, okay, what you could do, which services is included, and how you're supposed to use it. And that helps when you have a roaming, for example, so that every single mobile operator understands what is actually the services you're supporting, so that we have a good support with pro roaming. What we mean by services, what is included, to give an example. So if you think of the drones purely using the data, so you might not need to have a voice call. So it means maybe you don't need to have this proof of a voice call. So that's where we look at different services that are all available in 3GPP. We kind of select the one that are most appropriate, and also the characteristics, which main characteristics is also the availability, the latency that is required, so that it helps us to actually understand what we need to do and select. We also have released a white paper here, which was the first attempt to provide some high-level information where it's needed. But this work then is actually being transferred to GSMA itself, where we have a standing group of experts, but they do this one every time for different services. And we are now in the phase of finalizing the work for this information to create this profile, which is actually the starting point then to also provide, let's say, information for testings and roaming. The fourth one, you probably are more familiar if you are from the aviation background and from the drone background. This one is looking at, we call it the operational performances from the aviation perspective, and they look at how the connectivity can be specified. And here we look at it again, at the performances and the KPIs that we need to have, and then provide the information. And the maps are more like, I would say, the high level, the end-to-end type of service that you define in the aviation. We are not working in isolation here. We're not going to define everything by ourselves. In this group, we actually have a constant coordination, cooperation, at this stage with the joint activity, which is between the EuroCARI, which is the European standardization body for aviation, and the ACJA, which is also the representative in the United States. They created this joint activity. And in there, we have a conversation, we work with them to provide input to them. So they are the one responsible to define the standards, like we have the 3GPP and the aviation, they have their own. But we are in a conversation with them, work with them to provide the knowledge from the telco, because as you can understand, there are not many companies that have a telecommunication background for the mobile networks in this group. So we are acting like the knowledge experts to provide the information. And the work is in progress. So this is give you a little bit the overview of the 4 areas we're working on. And as I mentioned before, we are in between. So on one side, you have the aviation ecosystem, and on one other side, you have the mobile network ecosystem. We are in between. We try to work with the other partners, Gormon and ourselves. We have a good, let's say, idea and good references of how our own ecosystem works. And we try to work together to influence or talk to the appropriate stakeholders when needed. And it's very important here that also we have this, let's say, cross-industry panels, because that's what we need. We need it from every different type of areas, not just from the technical, but also the regulation, because we need to understand also each other's regulation and have a conversation how we can support each other or make the better solutions, but it helps the industry to go further and have innovation. The published paper that we have done so far are these 2, as I mentioned before. One is the LTE area profile. So that is for the work task 3. As I said, it's a white paper, is available there on a link and on our website. You can see there what we intend to do and what is needed to utilize for the drones. One thing that I want to make clear, that eventually you're not supposed to use, let's say, a SIM card that you use for the smartphone. There will be most likely, let's say, a specialized type of subscription that is going to be more fitted for your use case, like we already have, for example, for the automotive and for other industry. The reason why this is important is because obviously by utilizing a generic, let's say, SIM card or connectivity, you're not going to get the best performances for your service because it's optimized for other purposes. So that's why we look at also this area profile, but eventually with the services, then we give subscriptions which is more fitted for your purpose, so you can select the service that it's relevant for you. And the other paper, as I said, is the network coverage service definition. This is giving an idea what we intend to provide, how we can provide it. And it's not finalized. This is the first, as I said, attempt, but we already had been working with several of our members. And this paper then will be evolving if we find that it needs adjustment. But for the moment, this is what we have published. There will be a further publication coming from the other work task. Most likely the work task 1 is the next one, where we will have documentations where it talks about particularly focusing on the need of supporting remote identification, but then also more other informations for supporting the connectivity. And as the work task 4, we are pretty much dependent also on the schedule of the other standardization body. So that will take a little bit longer. So here, I just want to tell you a little bit, as I mentioned before, we have a very focused cooperation with the Global UTM Association, where we have a joint group. Just to explain a little bit better, the ACJA, we have actual meetings, and these meetings are with the members of both associations together. And also the work task, they meet basically every 2 weeks, each of them, so it's quite intense. And they have participation from both the associations. So you can join if you are a member of either or one of the two associations or both. So if you're already a member of Gormon or GSMA, you can join. That's absolutely open. If you're not a member, there is opportunity also from the GSMA side to have a very, I would say, focused, they call it sector membership, which is focused on one specific area, which obviously is not as expensive as the normal membership. So if you have any question that, and also if you have a question with Gormon, I can forward you to the appropriate contact from the association. Then we also have a regular conversation, but also sharing our information, obviously, with IATA. They're also looking at the drones, which is, most of you might know for different reasons, is more represented the airlines and the activity on the airports, but they do have a very focused area group, which is looking at the drones. ICAO is obviously the primary, let's say, standardization body. It's similar to what we have in the TACO ITU. In the aviation, ICAO is the topmost authority, which is also having conversations on how to support BVLOS and UTM, so that it's already have publication on how to support certain things, but it's still a work in progress, obviously. And we receive at the individual, let's say, countries are far ahead, which is good because that's what ICAO would like. The first, there is a development individually, and then they harmonize the, let's say, the specifications and the rules so that it's recognized globally. CSER, it's primarily European, so it's focusing on the EU vision of a single sky and the evolution of the ATM, UTM. So the vision is actually to have a unified traffic management eventually, where you have supports for manned and unmanned, or now it's called crewed, uncrewed. So they also have a lot of projects where they verify and test specific aspects, which is also looking at the connectivity. Then we have other groups like 5G drones is also a European project, which is obviously, as the name says, is looking at how to use 5G connectivity for supporting the drones. Amsterdam Drone Week is more an event, but it is a European focus, as the name says, based in Amsterdam. And they look at it also more from the technology, but also from the regulation. So that's why it's important for us, because there you have a very important participation from the regulatory bodies. And then we have JARUS, which is the rulemaking. There's a lot of authority, civil aviations in there. We looked at the connectivity. So we've been one of the contributor on the connectivity paper from JARUS. CIVATA is looking more unmanned air mobility, and how also the engagement with the local authority, what is need to be done in order to have the full infrastructure. And obviously, if, the most important for this event is with Iskandar, particularly in this event. And as I said before, I'm looking forward to go forward in these conversations and see how we can go deeper and improve, or how supports the regions wherever we can. So this one was my last slides. And I wanted to check if by any chance, maybe if I'm on time, if there's any question that I can answer now, or otherwise you can find here the link to our website. You will find all the information and the document that I mentioned there. So with this one, I conclude my presentation. I give back to Christian.